on now. All right. Bringing the background music down because I'm not falling for that again. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by the... what's our fucking name again? Oh, thank you for stopping by the Terramundi stream. This is our weekly Wednesday stream where for the last little while we've been doing like playtesting and all that fun stuff. Now, Corey and I are going to sit and talk about lessons learned from our first round.
I'm so tired from running 2 playtests in a row and also Thursday.
Dog.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
I tried multiple times to be like, hey man, this is a lot of GMing. Like, if you need me to like step in and like, you know, keep running L5R for a little while, or I'll make up a one shot or some shit. And you were like, no, it's good. It's fine.
I did have you run L5R for a long time.
You had me run it for a couple of sessions, but I think you did 2 weeks of 3-day in a row games? Like, that's a lot, dude. No, that's psychologically taxing. But we love you for it.
Well, and I feel like I haven't been on stream in like 2 months because of it, because I've been unable to look at chat, interact with people. I've just been like kind of sectioned off into GMing, which is nice, but like also like I don't even know what this shit is anymore.
It's easy to feel siloed when you're like when you're kind of off in your own world doing your own prep or whatever. I wish that we could have figured out the stream key business a couple of weeks ago, and that probably would have made it at least a little bit better. But yeah, so everybody who might be watching now, just know that Corey does have the stream key now, and he can see all of your very nice comments. So tell my boy what a good job he did. This goes both for the on-stream playtest and also the off-stream one. I know you guys didn't see that, but you should tell him he did a good job anyways, because he did.
I mean, Taylor doesn't believe that. It was significantly more, like, viscous than the stream version.
Oh, buddy. Yeah, I do think at several times you did hint at your recent fascination with Cronenberg on stream, and let me tell you, Tuesday night playtest really reflected the Cronenberg side of EBA. We got to explore all of the nasty, juicy bits of this fucked up fantasy world that we made.
Plus Weasel.
Oh, I'm gonna like.
That was a lot harder than variant. What was happening?
It's fucked up because I'm not even gonna have nightmares about it. It wasn't even scary. I just I dry heave a little bit every time I think about it. Not even terrifying, just like
yeah, that's like the kind of horror I like. I like it wet.
to each their own, you know?
I found something out about an alien that I actually told Tuesday. You know, they used for all like the liquid in Alien. Yeah. This is lube. I was like, yeah, that tracks. It's 3 viscous.
I mean, honestly, that really makes me want to see the bloopers for Alien, because you know, they've got a shot of Sigourney Weaver just like sliding down a hallway.
Or dude, actually, hold on, what's his name?
Bill Paxton?
No, the dude who that'd be awesome.
Would be cool.
Bolai Badeha. He is the guy. He's the Nigerian dude who played the Xenomorph in the first Alien. He was 6'10".
I do remember this guy. Yeah.
So he probably was. That suit was covered in it. So The chances of you seeing like a 6'10" dude like fucking eat it are
Just
probably
eating,
pretty high.
just eating shit on like a spaceship movie set. Fuck yeah. Like if anybody who's worked on Alien just finds themselves watching TTRPG streams at 3 a.m. is watching this and you have that footage, please make it public.
And if you are Ridley Scott, I would like to say hi.
Hey,
that's all.
How you doing, bud? Are you okay?
He's fine. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't listen to anyone.
But yeah, so today we've already done kind of one of these streams already where we've talked a little bit about sort of lessons learned on the playtest. What I want to do now is kind of complete that process so that we can put a nice little hat on some of the things that we definitely know that we want to change moving forward in the game. And I know there's been a lot. I know the last couple of sessions have illuminated some things that we haven't talked about already. We also got some very nice feedback from our Tuesday night players last night that in some ways was really encouraging, which I think is also bears some brief mention. But with that, let me go ahead and just pull this up real quick. So
just as a clarifying point here, we probably, at least at this juncture, at least in the stream at this juncture, we are not going to be talking about specific changes we want to make, of which there are many, and of which we have like a lot of ideas floating around. So we will stop ourselves from talking about shit. Which means we're going to have to pull back pretty aggressively, because I know I'm going to probably be like, you know what?
I was about to say, speak for yourself.
Well, I would like to just get through some of like the playtest lessons learned, things that we noticed without offering solutions at this point. Which is probably good practice.
Then I think we're going to talk more. Yeah, well, I don't think that we need to talk about what we plan to do about it. I think the important thing today is really just identifying what did work, what didn't work. And then, the solution is something we're going to work through. We've already pitched a lot of ideas to each other in private. But I think that's going to be the start of like the next, stream of dev, the next string of dev streams. Yeah.
Which I'm stoked for. Like, I actually am very excited. Like, dude, I love playing games and I love playtesting. Dude, playtesting takes it out of you, though.
It really does.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we're not even professionals. Like, we're not Brennan Lee Mulligan. We're not like Lou Wilson or Abria Iyengar or whatever. But like, knowing that you're playing in front of people, in front of an audience, no matter how small it might be, like, I don't know. There's something about that just adds another layer of like fatigue to that experience. It's very fun, but it's a lot.
Yeah, well, and like playtesting is a whole nother element, right? Like, because it's not like, I want a passable narrative, but that's not the most important thing to me.
Also true, yeah.
Right? Yeah, like I want to make sure that the system is stressed and tested. I want to get like a good example of like everything in the systems, how the players interact with things, and then like being on in an observational way as well, more than just running the game. Be like, okay, beyond like what is happening with roles at the table, like what is happening with like people's reactions to it's a lot more to juggle than just streaming a game or just playing a game.
Yeah, that's very true. And I'm really hoping, I know that we have somebody who's already volunteered to DM a private game. I would really love it if whatever the next playtest, even if it's just a one shot, I would love it if the next playtest was, if somebody is willing to act as the archivist, for the game. 'Cause ideally, I don't think we should be involved in whatever the next one is. I think we should be there, obviously, but like in a note-taking position, you know?
That being said, if we can't do that, then we will.
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking perfect world stuff here. Yeah, like God, it was hard enough just getting like 3 players who are willing to go on stream and who have that time free. Yeah, no, I mean it's God, I wish it was less of a pipe dream than it is, but it's hard to do. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and dive in today. So lessons learned. How do you want to talk about this? Do you want to like do like a compliment sandwich? Do you want to talk about the good first? Do you want to talk about the bad first? What sticks out to you?
Let's break it down into sections. Let's talk about actually playtesting first, because we're already kind of on that stream. Schedules are fucking hard. We've had a regular group for Thursday for a long time, for years. I forgot how difficult scheduling is.
My God.
And it is something we're going to have our eyes on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we took pains to really make it clear to the playtesters that, you know, hey, like you need to be comfortable being on stream. You need to have Wednesday nights free, you know, all of these other things. And I am not denigrating our playtesters at all. We appreciate our volunteers so much. What I'm actually getting at more is just that despite them all understanding these terms and agreeing to these terms, life just finds a way to sneak something in. Somebody's got an unexpected meeting. Somebody's got, you know, family stuff going on. And I don't know if there is a way around that. But it's definitely something that I did not appreciate before these last couple of weeks as much as I do now.
Yeah. I mean, even in the Tuesday off stream group, like it's just shit comes up, and it's like, especially when you're trying to keep your thoughts organized for a playtest, it becomes harder. Something that we were talking about is we need to get better at running like short, more concise sessions. Because of that. Basically running con games, you know, take like 4 or 5 hours and just be like hammer through. That's what we're doing. I think part of it is we generally run shorter sessions of like 3 hours because we're playing weekly and we have regular lives that we can do that. But you know, it might behoove us to like try to fit in like one weekly, like regular, because I mean, not even Dungeons, tabletop games, man, like, it's funny, we play 3 hour sessions, but that's not the norm, right? Like, no norm is 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the move when we look at future playtests. I definitely think that, like you said, con games, one shots. I think this is what the future of at least the on-stream playtesting needs to look like. We should aim to have everything done in a single night. And there's challenges that come to that, you know. What I'll add, if we're going to be doing stuff like that, is how do we handle character creation? Because it's a quick process, but it's still going to eat up valuable time if we're trying to cram everything into a single thing. You know, how do we handle getting feedback for a single night's worth of work? These are things that we need to take into account moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to is we need to cater both of those things to what we're trying to playtest. If we want to playtest something more robust with character creation, there's going to be character creation involved. If not, we are going to make characters, bring them to the table, and just be like, these are what you can have. Pick what you want. You know, feel free to flavor them however you want. And then same thing with feedback. Like, we need to have a 1-page survey that is like, really, what about the not 70 fucking questions. Because because we're geniuses.
Yeah, because we knew instinctively that everyone would want to take a 3-hour survey on the 2-hour game that they just played.
It's because we're used to putting ourselves through pain, where we will go through like an arduous process and then cut it down to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not cool like Lilac Basilisk is. Hi, Lilac Basilisk. Thank you so much for
What up, Lilac
for the subscription. We appreciate you stopping by.
Oh shit.
What's your normal play style? I mean, do you do these like long 6-hour streams? Because I remember when we did the Star Wars game at Gen Con at where did we go? At PAX. Yeah. Granted, it was at the end of a long day, but I was fucking wiped. I was wiped at the end of that game, and it wasn't even I think it was like 4 hours. It was pretty it was pretty compact. But yeah, that's I mean that is I think the move going forward.
Well, and a part of that is like taking a nod from Homeboy. Like he was very in control of the session, which I think you have to be in those situations. You know, we're keeping the narrative going. We're not letting things get sidelined into weird places, which might be interesting to explore in a different campaign. But like when you're like, okay, we have 4 hours though, so we're not going to be able to spend the time here.
Yeah.
Get it down to a check, and then let's do this. I think that is the case. So
yeah.
Something else is, hey, this is without like a VTT setup. It's always, I forget how tough it is to run a game without VTT support. Boy.
Holy shit! Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got nothing more to say about that. It's just it would be nice to have a character sheet with buttons. So much so that I am thinking of learning fucking CSS just so I can just be like, okay.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm at the point, once we have the version of our character sheet that we're pretty sure is the final one, and we're gonna get more into that in a minute. I am actually down to pay someone. I know it's a lot. I know it's gonna be like somewhere between $600 and $800 to get that done. I think it's actually a worthwhile investment. I'm down. Once
we have a finished product, absolutely.
Yeah.
Until then, I'm going to make the suggestion that we stick to Excel sheets, because Excel sheets will automatically calculate things for you. And I got actually pretty good at putting in Excel formulas when we were doing the first Excel ones.
Yeah, no, I think that works. Obviously, I've had the luxury in both of our playtests of having printed out character sheets in front of me. And I will say that works fucking great. Having the printed version works fantastic. But yeah, no, for the poor people working off a digital one, man, that is rough.
Yeah.
No, you have my eternal sympathies. I can actually strongly empathize with this, because for a year I ran a private game that had no VTT support. Thankfully that was like a PBTA game. So, you're always rolling 2d6. It's relatively straightforward. I think that was the reason that I was able to keep that game going as long as it did. But man, I feel for you. It was a constant struggle. Trying to work Ruma without having like fitted character sheets and all that stuff.
Yep. So like, I mean, those are probably the biggest standouts to me, as far as like actual playtesting goes. Maybe making sure that everyone understands it's a playtest. You don't have to worry about succeeding or failing. Don't be worried. Failure is actually important for us to calculate as well.
Well, I mean, our on-stream crew learned that pretty well.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I've never seen you navigate a TPK before, and that was actually very fun for me to watch, having played with you for years. I don't know.
I was cowardly about it.
I don't think so. I think it was a great ending. Like it ended with a big kaboom, which I don't know. I enjoyed. Okay, cool. So let's go through let's actually go through the process then. Let's go through through it by the book. So first things first, let's talk a little bit about character creation, which I don't know, for my money, I actually thought was a huge success. I did not cite a lot of stuff here that did not go well. The narrative questions were really good for building a character sheet. On that note, I did have a couple of things that caught my eye. So the first thing was, in both of the playtests, I as a player took a totally narrative approach, utilizing the answers that were on that sheet. I really wanted to work within the materials as best I could. In both, well, actually, I didn't create Freckle, so I'm not gonna talk about Freckle. But in the case of Silver, I created a character that mechanically was very different than what I had intended. So it may be worth going. It may be worth going back and revisiting what some of our answers to these questions are based on like the attribute or skill or approach that they affect.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we're going to do enough changes to the system where we're going to have to reapproach that anyways. And if we're going to be talking about lore, probably rewriting the lion's share of it. However, I agree with you in that like the actual system of picking things off of a question list worked really well.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I forgot what I was going to say. I think there were a couple situations where, you know, that same thing that you said, everyone kind of had that experience. Here's something that I think we need to do. We need a better eye on editing. Straight up. Like, yeah. I mean, this is a different situation. Not to give us too much of a pass, but we were working like on a times like we were getting pretty down to the wire. And we were working hard. But yeah, I think we need a more concerted eye on editing. It's tough because there's only two of us. So like, if you write it, I will edit as I go, then send it to you for editing. That's not like much of a that's not a great verification check loop.
It's a really great recipe for confirmation bias. It's like, this looks good.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is clearly what happened in several places. I mean, granted, it is worth just repeating because I think we talked about this once on stream. It wasn't as bad as we originally thought. Because initially we were working off of an older version of the book that wasn't the final downloaded version, and that thing had so many typos. I was straight up embarrassed. There were whole sections out of place and all this other stuff. Thankfully, our final playtest docs didn't have anything quite as egregious, but they were still, we may want to consider having a third party look at this with an editing eye. I'll add something actually to character creation as well. We need to start people out with more money. I like the intent. I like the narrative lore behind not having a lot of it, but I think that we just need to adjust those amounts. Because for players who want to go ham and like have cool gear, you end up having really cool gear and no money to spend to actually use it, which was the case that I ran into with the Tuesday night playtest. Was I couldn't activate any of my weapons. I couldn't activate any of my tags. I
think that, this is going to be something we're going to touch on in a lot of different aspects of this, is getting away from punitive game measures and be more encouraging. And I think by and large, we should keep meta currency separate from experience, because I've been reading a lot about this, a huge point that comes up, and this is something we talked about, but we never implemented because we haven't, made a progression system. But in the case that I am never going to spend something that I could instead use to progress my character further.
Oh, I see.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Or conversely, I never grow my character because I'm constantly using my equipment.
Well, I won't do it, right? I'm always going to improve my character in the long run. It's the better option, which means that
I think that falls mainly to playstyle. I know that for me, I would definitely find myself in hairy situations where I would say it's worth it to spend that now, or I would have a really cool item and I would say it's worth it to spend that because the item is cool.
I think what it comes down to, though, is is it worth it? And that evaluation process is always going to be against progressing my character, which is it feels bad. It feels bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Having to Sophie's choice between cool items and progressing your character is not a fun experience.
Which I think is going to give us more freedom with Pennycoin too in the long run. If we are on the subject, let's keep on character creation. I think whatever we do moving forward, we need to distinguish species more. I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
I have a couple ideas there. I won't get into them right now. I actually have been thinking about what we talked about the other day of modifying those two things into one system that I think would work. I think and this goes into lore too. We need to distinguish these things and make the world more distinguishable because of it.
Well, and I think that what we need to do a better job of is really just communicating the distinctions that we've already made for the species.
Yeah.
I not to say that the blurbs that we have for each of the species are super bad, but I don't think they communicate enough that really makes them feel as distinct as they really are, or certainly that they should be. Because that's the thing is we actually have a ton of lore. That whole lore dump document is rife with, stuff that can be inserted in here. So that would be my first go-to is beef up those distinctions. Maybe it's time to look at, full page descriptions of each of the species as opposed to leaving it to a paragraph.
And character art.
Yeah. Character art is huge. That's going to be a big one. Yeah. I know that Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I have no qualms anymore because I'm feeling myself artistically right now.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. As you should.
No, I'm about to send you a picture of God.
How's his butt?
It's God's butt.
It's God. That's God's butt.
I think we all knows whose butt that is.
Go on.
I don't know. Well, I'm exporting it right now.
I was about to say you gotta have some answer here.
Oh, it's God's butt.
God's butt is God's butt. A tautology is a tautology. Yeah, cool.
Nah, it's Chris Evans.
There you go.
Yeah,
I was about to say you absolute coward.
Listen, don't get on me for my religious beliefs.
I just think that God is God, you know? What does that mean?
I'm pretty into it. I don't know, but he's very sexual, so I'll tell you that much. I'll say things that aren't cowardly, just in a really vague way.
So yeah, species need further distinction. Gonna be honest, nothing else super important comes to mind with character creation. Anything else for you?
No, because we moved provinces to like play instead of character creation, but I do have an issue there.
Well, we're gonna get to that. Let's talk about a different elephant in the room really quick though. That's next in the book, which is caravan creation. Man,
caravans, man, sucks.
Yeah,
it sucks.
It sucks. Yeah. Like it just feels
like a hat on a hat.
Yeah, the caravan is supposed to be like your mobile fortress. It's supposed to be the place where you feel the most powerful, but for the most part, like in both parties, I think our stations only ever had at maximum 3 dice that you rolled, which is like the same as like a character sheet. In fact, in a lot of cases, you rolled more dice acting on your own than using the station in the caravan. So I don't know, like an easy fix there is saying that like the caravan adds that many dice. That would be that would have been smarter than what we had. But in a lot of cases, it was just discouraging.
And more importantly, they just feel stapled on. And like, here's the thing, like through every section of the playtest, from caravan creation to play to like the character sheet, all of it felt bad.
Yeah.
Like none of it felt good. And like combat was not as clean. Like it just all was not good.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, we're not talking solutions here. So I don't know exactly. No. I don't want to get into what that proposal is right now. That being said, it's not looking good.
No.
And you know, this actually is maybe a good place for us to go into another larger section here. Because when we talked about the lore of this game, the thing that we constantly say, right, is this is Shakespeare meets Mad Max. And the way that we have justified that description has primarily been, it's like neck ruffles and like cool vehicles. And that was your caravan, right? That was the Mad Max aspect of this world. And much in the same way that the caravan just feels stapled on, the Mad Max tag in the lore of this world also just kind of feels stapled on. A lot of this just feels like we had this conversation in private a couple of weeks ago. So I'm not saying anything new here, but a lot of this just feels like a traditional fantasy world.
It's pretty generic. Which like leads to like, why are we making this game? What are we trying to say? Like what play style is this game trying to promote? I feel like we lost a lot of that. Like a lot of that.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly what we're planning on doing here. I know we've got some ideas, but we're definitely going to be revisiting the lore of this world and trying to make it feel a little bit more like a bullet hell kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm sure that'll mean a lot of rebranding. I'm sure that when we talk about stuff like, I'm trying to think of the most fantasy thing that we have. like the Desert Eye of Ishtas. It's a cool fucking name.
Yeah.
But that's a fucking fantasy city, right? I don't know. So like we just need to revisit the feel and the branding of Iba if we're gonna hang on to this idea of it being Shakespeare meets Mad Max. Otherwise, we can change the tag and decide that this game is about something else, you know?
Yeah. I mean, for my money, I would love it to be like, I don't know, if we could get like a sword and sorcery and Fallout kind of vibe, or sword and sorcery meets, more appropriately, probably Borderlands. We just gotta, I don't know, it's not clear cut right now. I know it sounds like we're being pretty negative on ourselves right now.
I mean, we are, but I mean, that's why we make anything that's good, is because we are willing to talk about the stuff that we make in pretty rough terms. So beyond that, in terms of it feeling generic, I don't know. It just, we've made a lot of very unique stuff in this game, and it just, for whatever reason, doesn't really feel popped out. When I meet like a Polyutar in an NPC, for example, they don't feel especially distinct. It just feels like a regular person that I'm meeting.
So I do wonder if this is going to touch on our base mechanic, because and I wonder if we've streamlined too much, which is good. Like, I feel like in general, it's good. It's a good process to hold, that you want to have things as like as to the core mechanic as possible. However, by doing that, there's two kinds of crunch, right? There's two kinds of complexity. You can have actual mathematic complexity, or you can have additional systems that you're piling on, and the more you have to navigate there, the crunchier a game is, because you're utilizing multiple systems at a time. We have an inherently non-crunchy system. Our mechanic is pretty much the mechanic, right? It's the whole way through, straight up and down. You are doing that. You're calculating die the same way, which is good. I think. I do wonder if maybe we've gone too hard in that direction, where without additional systems on top of it, we're losing like the narrative vibe of certain things, like species, because there are no classifications for them in any way. So you don't have to juggle that, but also,
or to repeat one we've already said, like caravan, right? And this is actually the thing, right? Because the caravan that we used to have was a totally different system. We've actually experimented with this idea of multiple systems before. So what we need to find is a way where you have multiple systems in the same game that doesn't feel tacked on. Because in almost every discussion we've had, I mean, even about super popular games, right? Like we rag on D&D all the time, and will continue to do so. But
I'll never stop.
Yeah, I'll never stop. You can't stop me. I'll die first. But like we've talked about how like the magic system in D&D feels like a totally different thing, right? It's like this is the concern, is that in one case, in multiple systems, you have this problem of it feeling like a hat on a hat, or it feels like something that's stapled on. Or it just feels like you've got, a couple of players at your table who are just playing a different game. On the other hand, you've got what we have, which is something that doesn't really feel distinctive, and doesn't really feel unique, and doesn't really feel special. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution to that is, but
I mean, and I'm not going to get too deep into here what it is, but I think we need to, for my money, we need to have our core mechanic broken up into like multiple sections that are all as important on your character sheet. So it's not like a wizard. It's just like everyone has these three things that you resolve everything with, and they operate differently from each other, so that when you are a builder, it changes one of those in a significant way. And I think if we do that, we're still going to hold true to like this idea that like those three mechanics are the mechanics of the game, and you can shuffle them around. But it's all essentially, the same kind of thing we're doing, where it's compact, concise.
Yeah.
It brings me to like the good thing about our game. Our game works. Like,
yeah.
For all the uninspired things that we just talked about, like, it was easy to pick up.
Yeah. We had several people talk about how, like, they came from varying backgrounds in tabletop experience. A couple people had only ever played D&D before, all the way to people who, they've GM'd several game styles, and each of them said, this is like something I could show my friends. They could pick it up in like 15 minutes and it could work, which is awesome. That's fantastic. And obviously, if we do introduce this idea of multiple systems, some of that is going to go away. But it definitely gives us a good benchmark for what makes a good system, what makes an easy to use system. And if we can find ways to make multiple systems, each one easy to pick up, then that's our key, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it lets us know that we have the ability and like the core of our game. Because I mean, like, even if we do change things, I think like the core principle there, like how we are rolling die, can stay. Like we know that works, which is fucking cool, because we grappled with that for a long time, having this like evolving die system. Now I'm sure there's going to be some people who still are not happy with it going low. A lot of people don't like low, which actually speaks to what one of our playtesters said. Unintentionally, I think he said this, but he was like, he was talking about progression. He's like, seeing those numbers climb feels good, which is an important thing. Like, it's a distinction between multiple game types. Some people don't like games with progression, some people do, but it is something to keep our eye on. But also, like, we're not doing a game where even on the table, high numbers are good, right? Like, low numbers are what we want. So, like, that is a cognitive shift. Now, whether or not that's important is a whole other thing, but some people give a shit about it. But I think it works. Like, ones felt good to roll. Explosives worked really well. From the GM side, I don't know. So let me ask you from a player, because I've got mixed feelings on this. I both liked and didn't like it. It kind of speaks to how swingy our game is, because boy howdy is it swingy. It is feast or famine as far as success goes.
Yeah.
But half invest rolls, like, I feel like they worked, but it's more to juggle on the that's like declaring TDVs felt like a lot to juggle as a GM.
Okay. So I'm really torn on the half best roll system, if I'm being honest. My experience as a player was that if it was a best roll, then there was basically no way I was going to hit it. And a part of that is due to the fact that this was a thing in character creation that I pointed out early on, was that we only had 2 questions, which actually affected your approaches, which affect your die type that you're rolling. And the thing is, for a best roll, the best thing you can do, I would rather roll like 2d6s rather than like 4 d12s. Because I just have a better chance of hitting, a 1 or a 2. I think in both of the games I played, my highest die type was a d8, and then everything else was a d12. So best rolls really felt impossible. I mean, it reflected the intent of the mechanic, right? Which is to say, it's a specialized action. You need to. It's by nature hard to do. I would almost rather have just had that added as a complication that adds to that adds to the number of required half rolls in your success. I would rather have that, or conversely, I would rather have all of the die pools for all of the skills be much higher, like starting at like 4 and then building up from there. And then it doesn't feel as bad when you're rolling for 1s and 2s, right? Because that's basically like Shadowrun stuff. So those were my 2 thoughts on that. I think that it's less work to change it to just having half rolls be our system, and then a specialized knowledge is an extra degree of success that you need to get. It's another success that you need. But if we wanted to keep half rolls, I think you need to increase the size of die pools.
Yeah, I think both are manageable. I mean, I talked about how, like, for my money from the GM side, I would love either which way we go. I want the character sheet to decide what you need to hit. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think even honestly, like, if we keep it half rolls and keep 1 as explosives, that covers it too, right? Like, if that feels good. So I wanted to hear from the player's perspective. I kind of agree, because it felt rough declaring best rolls, but it also narratively, made sense.
What I will also say is that when you declared a best roll, it made perfect sense to me. It never felt like something I really wanted to contest. Because, I mean, there was one, like, it's fresh in my mind because it was last night, but I was trying to figure out how, like, this isolation pod or something in, like, the mad scientist lab worked. And you said, okay, well, that's obviously specialized knowledge. That's a best roll. And, it's hard to take a purely objective view on this game because, I helped create it. But for me, in my mind, I was like, yeah, that's obviously a best roll. Like, I can't even try and argue my way out of that. Which, when we were creating the mechanic, I was really expecting that to be a much more blurred line. But I don't know if it was just your GMing style. It felt very well delineated. Yeah.
I agree. I feel like if you like establish, like, whatever the case be that we decide, like, the ability to establish specialized knowledge in this game is actually pretty easy.
The other thing that I know we've also talked about is the thing that didn't feel super clear is what a skill and what various approaches do. We've had a lot of talks about this, both between ourselves and with players.
I mean, like, for my money, like, honestly, I feel like the thing with having skills and approaches kind of changes the game a little bit, but, like, having attributes and skills, right? It feels like unnecessary from a design standpoint, because it's like, why not just fucking... Why like, either just have the skills, or it feels unnecessary to have both. And then like traveling, especially games that have like a straight hierarchy, because it's like, okay, then like just make this wisdom and like give me some bonus to wisdom when dealing with something. Or like fucking when D&D, oh God, I hate when games fucking like D&D when it's like you have a 16, which means you have a +3. It's like, okay, why not just call this a 3? Fucking call wisdom 3. And that's shit. Like so much easier than me having to like use a fucking graph to like determine. I don't know. It's silly.
Just to keep ragging on D&D for a minute, it's literally just the difference between it's 2 points for every point. It's not even that complex. Just call it a fucking 3, you goddamn cowards, and then make it twice as expensive or whatever in the XP. You don't even have to make it twice as expensive. Like, just... I don't know. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's annoying. Do double the steps, right? Like, yeah.
So yeah, I know that we've talked about this a little bit, and we're not pitching hard ideas here for solutions. Personally, I think that the best option here is to reduce. I know that for our NPC cards, we've done a really clean job of this. And I know I talked with you about this multiple times, that the NPC stuff seems to work really well, right? Yeah. So it might be worth looking into an approach that mirrors that.
I will say we probably need to reevaluate the tiers because, like, an NP, like, because because you rank up both, right? And that's the issue. Is like it is not only do you go from 1 and 2 to like D10s and D12s, you go up, you bring up the die type and the rank at the same level. So like by the time you get to that rank 3, it's like, oh, when we get to shootouts for defense, which we're probably going to get rid of, but when we get to shootouts for defense, like, it's impossible. Like, I'm rolling 5d6s now to resist, which makes it very difficult for you to hit, which means that combat becomes a slog.
Let's dive into that here for a little bit. Combat, I think, was the biggest heartbreaker for both of us because it was a thing that we worked the hardest on, I think, directly prior to making these playtest docs, which honestly, in hindsight, having had the opportunity to think about it for a couple of months now, I can't understand why we prioritize this so much.
I don't either.
Combat this is not a fighting game. And for some reason we put all of this effort into making it one.
We made it very tactical, and like, it's not.
Yeah, it's not a tactical game. So yeah,
like, it's a pulp game. Like, we have a fucking here. Let's go through the fucking list of things that we fucking do not need, and I don't know why we made. A list of one-use items that solve all of the conditions. A huge list of fucking conditions. Oh, sorry, I gotta jump. Oh, that's not great. I gotta jump from equipment to combat, which doesn't feel good in going through the books. By the way. I mean, that's something we've talked about before, though. Organizing this book is hard. Organizing books is hard, guys.
Yeah. So
okay, cool. Combat. There is like a multi-step system for figuring out how to go through combat. There is it's just like you're rolling and then they're rolling again. It is overcooked. It feels like, as good as the intent is to have everyone like share movement and be able to set things up, which feels like leaning into the gang tactics, feels like you guys having a squad. Great. But this isn't fucking XCOM, and like, that's not the intent of the game. So I don't know where we got into that shit, but we did, and boy, we thought it was a good idea.
We thought it was a great idea, and it's just fucking dumb. It's not it's not even the kind of game we were trying to make, and for some reason we thought it was. Okay, yeah, so that's honestly a great list of the main things. Shootouts suck. They're a slog.
Yeah.
I'm also going to add to what you said before, they feel incredibly uneven. When you get to that big face-off encounter, both with the Nocturne on the on-stream playlist and on-screen playtest, and with the Tuesday night playtest, when you got to the shootouts with like the big bad, you are suddenly so fucking weak. Like I looked at all of your rolls last night. You at minimum were rolling 3 dice, but on average you were rolling 4 or 5. By contrast, we were typically rolling 1 or 2 dice. There's no version of that works out well for us. So on top of being a slog, they also just were super uneven, and just didn't feel fun in that way. The one-use items, I'm cool with them. Yeah, no one used them. Primarily because we didn't inflict conditions that often. Except for one instance, which I am going to talk about here in a minute. And the conditions themselves just didn't really come up. On that note, the conditions fucking suck.
Yeah, conditions themselves suck because, like, it sucks to get hit so hard that now you can't do anything, which is something I've known forever playing games, right? It's like fucking like getting blinded in D&D sucks because it's like, okay, now I'm not in the combat. This is going to be an hour of me sitting here not being able to do anything.
Right.
At any point where you get to make a choice in design where you're taking somebody out of the game, that's not a good design choice. Yeah. Unless you have a game like Never Going Home, which leans into it heavy, where you die like 3 times per session.
That's the point.
And you can make a character in a second, and like all of a sudden it's like, yep, you're in the game again. It doesn't matter. There's no lapse, right? Like,
yeah. Even then, a condition like blinded doesn't really help because that still leaves you just like alive. You can't even make a new character yet because you're not dead yet.
I feel like if we're going to have conditions, they need to last that turn and then it's over. Like immediately resolved, because like that feels like, and we should like that. I was going to say that feels punitive enough, and nothing should like. I don't want to say nothing should feel punitive, but I want to get away from that design principle.
Yeah, no, that needs to not be the case. I am going to say definitely the wound track system combined with the condition system. We had a crazy thing happen last night. Where one of our players inflicted the bleeding condition using an item, and they lost all of their shootouts, but they nonetheless killed the big bad after 2 turns.
Actually, another player killed the big bad, which is crazy. So that was actually kind of neat. I actually kind of dug how that happened.
I did too. I just thought it was super interesting. It was an unexpected result of the mechanics. It was a blind spot. But yeah.
So basically, we have a bleeding condition, which means that when you take damage, you take it twice. Which we also have levels in wounds. So someone had an item that inflicts a wound, they inflicted it twice, so this thing had bleeding times 2, and then somebody got lucky on a shot, did 3 damage to this thing after it already had taken a wound, and fucking killed the big bad in 1 shot, which did feel fucking rad.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a weird thing, because I'm wondering if we should keep the conditions as something that, like, we've talked about this a couple of times where we want players to actually get bonuses as they get closer to death. This is a nod we've taken from the Alien RPG game. I'm wondering if at the same time that we do that, we actually may want to keep the condition system for monsters and NPCs and give players that opportunity to inflict a ton of damage and reward them for doing cool shit with it.
Yeah, I mean, like I like keep it blind to my only worry there, and it is that it adds. I want to make sure that we take off things for the GM to juggle if we include something like that.
Yeah, fair.
Or like include like a track on the NPC card where you like knock it off. It might even behoove us to do something like Alien does, or like Symborum does. Symborum. How do you pronounce it? Symborum.
I have no idea what you're referring to. What is that?
It's like this dark fantasy game.
Okay.
But they do this thing. Alien does it too, where like monsters, they don't roll attacks. If they're like in range, they do attacks. Like
that's
yes, yeah.
Goddamn,
you get it done to you, which I don't know, feels like it would play up that pulp shit really well, and it would take things off of it, because that's the other thing. Me rolling shit took time, and that sucked.
Yeah, it may be a good idea to take a nod from like PBTA here and maybe take rolling completely out of the equation for the GM. For the archivist. I don't hate that idea. That was actually one of my favorite things. Well, it was one of my favorite and least favorite things about running Ruma when I did, because in some cases, I think generally in terms of like running the game and like keeping track of stuff, it's awesome to not have to roll. I will say, when combined with PBTA's advancement system, which is so fucking fast and so just overly, I think, rewarding, to the point where by the time you guys met the big bad, I mean, I don't think you failed any rolls. Like it almost never happened. Which basically meant my character just didn't get to attack you at all. So like that's a potential danger with it. You remove that potential autonomy. Using movement though, as like the attack mechanism of your NPCs, that's fucking wild. I've never even thought of doing something like that. That's dope.
Yeah, Alien does it. A lot of the Mutant Year Zero games, a lot of those Free League games do it. It's pretty clever. Does that like? And I think Alien like breaks it down where like it's only like only the monsters. Dragon Bane does this too, where it's like the big monsters operate that way. Regular Jamokes, you can roll a die or whatever. But yeah, there's something there. Which again. Like, I don't know, if we have a conditional track on the NPC card, I don't mind that. It isn't even something you need to announce. And that would be like cool design too. Like you just like have quick descriptions next to like these conditions that you check off on the box, and you just like you fucking blow out his ribs or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, that's the thing, is like, I really like the idea. We want a game where people do wild shit and take crazy chances. And I think that the way to do that is to have mechanics that encourage you. You get stronger as you get closer to death. Why the hell not? Add that dice pool when you take, add like a die to your dice pool or whatever. Add 2 when you get your second wound. Add 3 when you get your third. Like encourage players to do that shit because they have more resources to work with. And at the same time, take some of the teeth that we have on the enemy out of them. Cause they're super fucking strong by comparison.
I'm also going to say that one thing that I noticed that narratively was really pleasing to me. It's funny because we had talked about it separately, and then players kept on trying to do it, which is like players were setting up like these weird schemes between each other to like make shit. People were operating as a group to be like, when you guys got into that room with the rats, like, okay, I want to go in and blast those pipes. And then Drew was like, well, then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to do this. And then like it played into this whole idea we were talking about of like, players doing these schemes and like trying to like get one over working as a group. And I'm like, that's exactly what we were talking about. And it felt fast paced. We want a heist, but we want an Indiana Jones style.
That turn did go, I think, the fastest of any of the turns that way. So a great positive takeaway, joint actions worked pretty well when they were used. We didn't use them a ton. But when we used them, they had great results, and that's awesome.
Well, so I think it's more slantways than that, right? Because like the actual joint actions when everyone's doing one thing together kind of fell flat, and no one wanted to do it. But when everyone wanted to accomplish a task by everyone doing their own thing, like working towards the same goal, that's when it felt good.
Let me make
so it was like riding alongside of our intent, and was something I noticed. Whereas like, oh, maybe what we set up wasn't necessarily great, but this dude doing kickflips behind the bus is pretty rad.
Okay, rather than everyone doing the same thing. Cool. That's actually a really good insight, because I did not pick up on that. It's true, though.
Yeah.
And granted, you know, the goal we were trying to achieve was fuck shit up, which I feel like any tabletop party worth their salt is good at that. But
you guys did it in the bar, too, like when you were trying to sneak you in. Like,
that is true, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if we could use like a momentum system.
That's actually, did you not read my message to you earlier today?
Oh, is that what you were sending? Okay, cool. I was in the middle of drafting when you sent me that, so I did not get the chance to read it. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what I was saying. Like a momentum system where it's like you like either there's a certain amount that needs to be met, or you don't even do that. Like you just have people roll, and as like one goes through, it makes it easier for or adds more die to the next person's roll.
Yeah,
adds more die to the next person's roll, and just like anyone who does fail, you just mark a tally and put in a complication for the success kind of thing. You know.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, like, the easiest way to do that is just to have additional successes roll over. And then, like, it makes it easier for the next person to achieve their related goal.
I mean, any way you cut it. Additional successes, add more die, like, it's rewarding, and then it's like, it gets the table pumped when it's like, okay, I rolled, hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Elle's not here to put the hell yeah.
Twitch Daddy, where are you? We need our hell yeah emoji.
Well, I mean it's 4 there. So.
Yeah, fair. All right, so let's see here. Let's talk
joint movements.
Joint what?
Joint movement sucked.
Oh yeah, joint movement was not satisfying at all. It was
combat wasn't fast.
Yeah. Well, combat wasn't.
It was unclear.
Combat wasn't fast, and it was also like we were working in a party of what, 5?
Yeah.
Which meant we had 30 movement. Which here's the thing, all TTRPGs involve some level of math. But as you're saying, like, okay, I take 4 points of movement, I take 3 hexes, I take 15, I take 8. It's like, where the fuck are we right now? This is way more work than I wanted to do, keeping track of how much movement is left.
9 times out of 10, everyone just moved their 5 too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't fast. It was too much math. And most of the time, everyone just moved 5 anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, movement was not satisfying. We've already kind of torn the caravan to shreds, but I'll just go ahead and add that like vehicle combat was
worse.
Yeah. it was vague. I didn't fully understand how much damage I was doing to the other vehicle, which in this case was a disgusting giant live rat. I don't know, man. And it was bad. Here's the thing. The caravan was bad enough that in our on-stream playtest, we literally didn't use the fucking caravan. Like, just left it outside of town, which is so fucking... That's such
indicative of this being not important to the game.
Right. It's such a giant red flag.
Yeah.
Like, man.
It's just to tell, like...
Yeah.
The caravan ain't it. Like, I don't know. Like, if we... I hate to move... Here's the thing. Like, peek underneath the hood. I'm heartbroken about the idea of getting rid of these massive vehicles. But, dog... I don't see any other way around it. Like,
I'm heartbroken about it, but also like, if it's not substantially adding to the system, then it's not right for us as designers to just force players to deal with this, like poorly thought out vision that we have. Like, that's not, it's gotta have mechanics behind it. And if it doesn't, then fuck off.
Yeah, it needs to be like whatever it is. It needs to be on the individual's character sheet, and it needs to be like crew oriented instead.
Yeah,
like that's just got to be what it's got to be. Like it can be individualized. Like, you get this for being in this crew or whatever, but like it's got to be
I going back with what I said before. I love the idea right now of just literally limiting caravans to like a level 1 caravan. If you're in it narratively, it adds a die to your dice pool, and that's it. If you're doing something from the caravan, extra die. And if you're a level 2 caravan, extra 2 die, extra 3 die, whatever. I honestly, here's the thing. That's a super vague idea for the caravan, and like, it's not as cool as I would like, but that is a better system. It is more tempting to use that system for the caravan than the current incarnation that we have now, which is disappointing as fuck.
Yeah, I think for me, it just comes down to like, it is a fundamental, it is like the fundamental flaw in the lore of the game, because like, we are pushing that narrative just with this thing, and like, fucking so what? Like, if we can't sell it any other way than having these big vehicles, then we don't deserve those big vehicles.
You gotta earn
it. And like, I like, even for my money, I feel like that is like a weak, like a milquetoast way to go about it. I would much rather remove them completely, find a way to satisfyingly like put that in the lore, and then revisit the idea and see if we can like, which feels like a very, very cruel thing to say to us. Like, we don't deserve these vehicles.
I mean, this is the thing though, right? Like, Cyberpunk Red makes a big deal out of vehicles. I know this specifically because I play as a nomad character. They're all about vehicles. But like, Cyberpunk Red, despite whatever problems you may have with the vehicle system, they have a thought out vehicle system that feels like something when I'm in it. And you know what the really interesting thing is there? Although it gives me access to like nicer weapons if I have like a heavy machine gun mounted in my helicopter or whatever, it actually doesn't add to my rolls whatsoever. I'm just rolling off of the character sheet. But that still feels like a more robust system. And so maybe that's actually the big thing that we've been missing, is like, maybe we were trying to make it affect roles too much as opposed to just providing other stuff. I don't know, but point basically being,
I think it's, oh, go on.
Sorry. Point basically being, what we got ain't working.
Yeah. I think what it comes down to is, we were supplanting the idea of the crew with this vehicle and using that vehicle to talk about your group. And it's like, we need to talk about your gang, your treasure hunting crew. And that needs to, because like in fucking Atlantis, like it's not, it's not the car, right? Like it's not the equipment that they're bringing down with
the boat's cool, but it's the people.
It's the people that make it.
Yeah, that's very true. Getting off of the caravan for just
the thing we keep going back to as a source of inspiration for this game.
I mean, it's you work with what you got. Not on the subject of the caravan. I just wanted to talk about a section we didn't get to. Being rendered inert didn't happen in either of these, and it wouldn't have mattered if it did, because everyone was broke and we didn't have any petty coin to spend stuff on. So I'm cool with keeping that mechanic in the book for now. Maybe it'll become cooler as we let people have more petty coin. But for now, that's just an untested mechanic.
Fucking, I want to turn this game into just a fucking slot machine where like fucking dice and coins are pouring out all the time. It's like ding, 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 jackpot, and then you fucking blow up.
Well, I do love that all of our discussions are centered around giving players the feeling of like, yes. And it's like, this must be what the developers of Candy Crush do. Like,
hell yeah.
It's basically... We're just basically trying to give addicts that high of like, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so let me see here. So caravan, fucking die generation is lame. It barely worked. It didn't feel natural when it did. Damaged or destroyed caravans we didn't get to. Okay, let's talk about some stuff that actually did work really well. And this is actually going to be something you're going to need to talk more about than anything else. Talk to me about those GM materials.
They work really well. Yeah. I say gross because I didn't want to talk, but okay.
Fair. Talk to me.
Yeah,
let's start with the basics. Tell me about the contract sheet. What do you think worked there? What do you think maybe needs to be tweaked, if anything?
Contract sheet was the weakest sheet. I will say that. I think what the like what it does pretty easily, like I think it lays out like the narrative of the game pretty well. I think it's a pretty succinct way to like give adventures to people, especially if you're going for like con games and non-campaign games, one-shot adventures, things like that. You throw this adventure down and that's like what it is, right? Like that's pretty sick. Obviously in play, players didn't know how to interact with it. It felt more like they wanted me to just present them the sheet and that be what it is, which maybe that's the direction we go, you know? Maybe it isn't something that you negotiate. If it is something that you negotiate, it needs to have, like, on a nod from mothership and character creation, it needs to be laid out in a way where it's telling you exactly how that works. Where it's like, now you can, like, you know, negotiate this part and make this roll kind of thing. So those are the two options that we kind of have with it. It needs to like just be one and done. You write the adventure on here. Here you go, guys. This is what you get. And you can let the table decide, you know, like, well, fuck that.
Yeah. I honestly, I really like the idea of making it a thing that isn't negotiated at all.
Yeah,
I
do too.
really like the idea that just the narrative lore is that in all these towns, there's basically just job boards. And so instead of coming to players with a single contract, you come to them with like 3 and they just pick which one they think is best. Like that would, I feel like that, I feel like that would actually encourage more discussion on players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it leans into like treasure hunting and like on the campaign side of things, like you can easily start setting up like factions and hooks in which like players are positive or not positive with, you know?
Yeah.
I like, as I was saying it too, I agree with you. I feel like having just presenting the sheet is the way to go.
Yeah. On the downside, that does mean more prep work for the GM.
Not really.
No?
Oh,
would it not be would it not be 3 times the work in creating 3 different contract sheets?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like actually presenting an adventure, yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. I guess it's a matter of like how you wanted to swing it. Like, if I had my druthers, if I were running the game, I'd be like, at the end of a session, I'd be like, here's the 3 contracts that are in this town when you come in, and then you can pick one now, and that's the adventure I'm going to prep.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, this actually leads into the rest of the shit. It took me about an hour and a half to prep these sessions, which gave us
an hour and a half each, or for both?
An hour and a half each.
Okay.
Which, I mean, I probably went a little more in depth than you have to. But yeah, it was pretty easy.
How much modification behind the screen did you need to do from your original planning as we went through these things? I mean, was it just the same materials each session?
Yeah, man, I didn't change anything once I wrote them.
Okay. Cool.
In fact, like a big part of what I like that took the longest was just finding maps and stuff. Like finding maps that fit this shit. So like taking that out, probably, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour.
Awesome.
Yeah. Basically, what it is you write the contract, and you have that to present the player. From there, I look at my different territories and threats, right? Yeah. I take those territories and threats, look at territories. I'm like, okay, those are the ones I'm going to need cast sheets for. So I open up the cast sheets, and I start filling those out. Once I have those cast sheets filled out, I'm like, okay, these are the factions and people who are important in these areas. So I fill out the NPC cards that come off of those cast sheets. It's pretty easy, and it like you kind of like go down the list as you go. They're tit. Like the cast sheet is like a quick description of what the area looks like. You know, you just throw down a couple like combat resolutions that you can throw in should combat break out, and you have like a little, you just know who's there.
Okay, cool.
And clues and information. Like if you're running mysteries and shit, that shit is fucking dope. Knowing like the information you can grab, that shit was sick. Because then I actually didn't have to prep people, like general people. If you guys are like, well, I want to talk to this guy and ask him questions, like, okay, you roll well on this, I can give you any of that information that is listed on the cast sheet.
Yeah, that's dope. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's talking about NPCs, because I think that in our talks, this was actually one of the strongest things we found, was that it was super easy to make NPCs, super easy to roll them. I'm actually curious to know, did you ever end up having to make an NPC on the fly?
Nah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we do have instructions. We do have instructions on how to do that. I'm curious to know how feasible those actually are.
I mean, here's the thing. When I built my NPCs, I built them off of those instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't specialize anything. Like, I gave them like an item and like drew up what it did, or like gave them an ability and drew up what it did.
Yeah.
But like beyond that, I was like, okay, this is a 1-star guy. So I'm just gonna plug and play those values in, and that was it.
I am a 5-star man.
Yeah, the guy in the $10,000 suit.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Sick. Yeah. So then, what I'm getting then is that the GM materials are a big fat fucking W.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Like we talked about earlier, is like we'll have to like renegotiate tiers and whatever,
For
and
sure.
like our values associated with them. But yeah, like pretty. Here's the thing too: if we keep conditions and like we switch to like just like fucking NPCs do abilities, like that's good. Like abilities and goods is already set up there to do that, right? Like it is. Like it's going to be very little change.
I'll also add that as we take out rolling mechanics on NPC cards, they become that much more system agnostic. So like that's the other thing that I'm very excited about with these is we've created kick-ass GM tools that anyone can use. It seems like for most systems, this would be something that would apply. It seems to simplify adventure making. I actually got to help make an adventure with you at PAX because we were in between panels and we were just like sitting on some steps or whatever. And like, it took us, I think it was like you said, like 45 minutes or something like that like that. That's actually one of the things I'm the most excited about with this iteration.
Well, and like just to like fucking go on to like the business side of things, like us making new systems or whatever, like this can become a hallmark of the systems we make, right? Like these kick-ass GM tools, which are agnostic. Or we can fucking list these on like one of the fucking, I don't know. We got to start talking about passive income for small design things and using them as like publishing a bunch of shit.
Gross stuff. Things we have to do because we live in a capitalist hellscape. But whatever.
You're gonna make me design for D&D because I can make money off of it, which sucks. I fucking hate D&D. I'll do it. I'll fucking do it.
No, I'll make system agnostic materials and tell DMs that they can use it for Dungeons and Dragons. But
I'll make fucking specific Dungeons and Dragons shit, but I'm gonna hide in there somehow that I think D&D sucks.
It's like in an area description, like you enter a room, there are a bunch of nerds playing with a 20-sided die. It's a bad game filled with dumb rules and, and poorly fashioned mechanics. They're clearly frustrated with the game and wish they were playing something else, but they continue rolling the dice nonetheless, as if under the curse of a necromancer.
Yeah. Hey, did you see this Goblin Warlord I've been drawing?
Hang on one sec.
It's on Discord.
Show me this boy. There he is. Oh yeah, that's the same guy that you posted last night, right?
Yeah, I just added more stuff to him. I made that knee pad and it looks kick-ass.
Hell yeah. He's riding a jellyfish?
Yeah, man.
That's dope.
Why can't barbarians ride jellyfish?
Oh, what is it against the law for barbarians to ride jellyfish now?
Look at that man's arms. They're beefy.
Corey, you only make beefy boys. I don't think I've ever seen you draw anything else. This is like the 27th beefy boy that you have sent me. And each time you're like, he's a beefy boy.
Sometimes my characters are all thighs.
Sometimes.
It's still a kind of beefy.
All right. So with that, I just want to round up some notes here. So as far as playtesting goes, expect future playtests to be one-offs because scheduling is hard. Also, somewhere in the future, whenever we feel confident that we have the current character sheet, we need to just pay somebody to make that, because working without the VTT support fucking sucks. Oh no. Oh God. Okay.
Both of my headphones fell out.
Oh Jesus. Okay, cool. I thought you like spilled something on your keyboard or something.
Nah.
Okay.
Both of my headphones fell out.
On the note of con games and one-shots, it's probably a good idea if we have talks with anyone who comes on to playtest that these are con games, go nuts, it's a one-shot, take chances. Our notes on character creation are that it pretty much works as intended. We have some minor tweaks, so some notes about getting a new editor, which is a good idea. And mainly that we just need to start fucking a little bit more with money and distinctions for species, both mechanically and narratively. Caravan's dumb. Moving on. Lore feels like a generic fantasy world, and we're not really sure what this game is trying to do anymore. So before I think we do anything else, this is actually, I think, step one. We need to really dive into the lore surrounding this world and really decide what kind of a game this actually is meant to be. Okay. That being said, mechanics, positive note, they work and they were easy to pick up, which is awesome. That being said, there are definitely some things in the core mechanics that felt difficult. Best rolls certainly come to mind. There's also some vagueness about what approaches and skills do. Combat, it sounds like, is going to need to be completely reworked. Shootouts suck. Conditions suck. Applying conditions sucks. The wound system sucks. The vehicle combat sucks. Movement sucks. Being rendered inert sucks.
It's fucking. I mean, like, I don't want to interrupt the flow here right now, but like, it's fucking our fault. We designed this game to suck. Like, we were like, I don't know why we thought it was a good idea. Like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if this sucked?
We were like, in October, we were just totally different people, and we were just like, this is a good idea. This is going to be great.
Hey, it'd be fucking kick-ass if nobody had fun.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be awesome if everyone felt like playing this game was a punishment? That's
great. It's fucking rad, right? You know what people want to play games for? To lose.
Yeah. The only thing in combat that we have, which worked well, was that joint actions worked well, but not as intended.
we accidentally made something cool, and it was more the players.
Yeah, and it was really more than what the players did. Okay, but that being said, for the big fat L that combat is, the GM materials are a big fat W. Everything works well. We may need to take another look at contracts and figure out what the best approach is there to either promote more discussion and debate over what's on the contract, or just maybe lean into what players are doing and, provide several contracts and all that. That being said, between contracts, cat sheets, and NPC cards, we've made some really great GM resources, which not only are they effective, but they're relatively system agnostic, which can be used everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, so yeah, that's the state of Vault Peddlers as we have it right now. We'll be doing more of these updates as they come. Corey, is there anything else that you wanted to do tonight?
I know we can talk lore.
All right, yeah, we can dive into lore.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you feeling. If you wanna head, my man, I am fucking probably gonna watch Fire and Ice. I have been. Dude, I gotta talk about this. I don't know what, and I know I have to stop stopping myself when I clearly have attention deficit disorder.
No.
I have ADHD. I know that I do because I brought up to Taylor. I was like, "Hey, I think I might have ADHD," and he laughed at me, which was cool and good. I was like,
you brought it up like it was such a fucking bombshell, and it's like, dog, of course you do. Sorry, go on.
But I get hyper fixated on things, and I'm feeling it happen right now. Because the last couple days at work, I'm fucking pretty into animation and looking up oh man, like the Lord of the Rings fucking cartoon or Wizards, or fucking Fire and Ice, which I'm I've never seen Fire and Ice, and it looks dope. Spine of Night, which was a new one created in the style of those. I'm fucking Sword and Sorcery kicks ass. Fucking Frank Frazetta's artwork fucking rules.
Hell
Cartoons are rad. Fucking barbarians fucking shit up with an axe is one of the coolest things that humans have ever invented.
It speaks to a very primal part of, I think, everyone's brain. Yeah. On that note, I really need to check out Forbidden Lands. I've had the books since November, and I need to dive into those.
No joke, my man. And on Thursday night, because I was talking with Shayna about this, because I felt kind of underwhelmed with myself the past couple of weeks. Where I think part of it is I'm just kind of we've been running two very dramatic heavy games. I just ran a bunch of tabletop.
You need a palate cleanser.
The world is getting kind of rugged, and I've been depressed. And no shame in that. So if you're depressed, it happens. Yeah, I go through it pretty frequently, and that's why Taylor was on stream yesterday or last week without me, because I couldn't. But that being said, I think I'm going to approach you guys with a couple different options for a game and be like, hey, I need to play something a little different for a little while. Just for a bit.
I mean, yeah, the thing is, it's a weird thing because for a long time we described our games as L5R was the serious dramatic game, and Cyberpunk was supposed to be the fun, wild thing. I think the problem is that you did such a good job on Cyberpunk that we were all I'm going to play this as serious as a fucking heart attack. and so now you've had to deal with your own success.
It's dark.
Yeah, well, for the record, I really do think that's actually it. You're a phenomenal GM. I know I tell you that a fair bit, but I don't tell you nearly as often as you deserve. You are very, very good at creating an interesting world. And so I totally get that these two games became. I mean, L5R was always meant to be serious, but Cyberpunk was not. And you need a fucking palate cleanser every once in a while. Every once in a while, you need to bash some shit with an axe. So by all means.
Yeah, and I don't know, if I'm talking about like how I'm going to be running, and excuse me, I'm just going to be talking about games for a little bit here, folks. Like how I'm going to be running, like we both approached this, like we wanted to run like really long campaigns,
Yeah.
which has been a great learning experience.
Yeah.
However, I am more interested in running like tighter adventure sets where I get to play with different games and different stories, and like for me, I think that is going to work better. And like the idea that like we can return to worlds and return to characters and stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think that like that leans into me as a human being, my interest in tabletops, my ability to get very excited about new things.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, that's the thing, right? Is like, this is another one of those things where like we've just kind of both missed something that was right in front of us. But like, you are messaging me about a new tabletop RPG game every other day. That's not an exaggeration. You literally are telling me about a new fucking game that you're pumped about and that you want to run. And like, in the time that you've run Cyberpunk, you've probably brought like 24 games in front of me. Fucking let's play those games for a little while, dog. Like, like let's do some one shots. Let's do some fun mini arcs. Like, I don't know. It's been a while since we've had to like work with a new system, so let's go nuts with it.
Yeah. So like I agree. Like I'm just like fucking like that's who I am, baby. You can't pin me down.
Fucking.
I can't pin me down. I have a behavioral disorder. What's he doing?
Oh my god. Oh fuck, dog.
No.
Oh man. I don't even know where to go from there. Yeah. I actually think we are going to call it here. I think this is. Sorry, go ahead.
Eva. We need to come up with a new name for a bunch of shit. The biggest one on the chopping block, I think we both agree, is Eva.
Eva, yeah. It sounds like a fantasy world. It's some Middle Earth. It's a Middle Earth Rivendell shit. Like that's not. Yeah, it's not the world where.
I'm pushing for Boomtown.
Boomtown. Yeah, no, I spent like the last couple of days since our conversation about this, trying to think about what I would change the name to. And I think I may have mentioned this. We've made this game that is Shakespeare meets Mad Max, and full confession here, I've only ever seen the new Mad Max. I don't think I'm pretty sure I've seen the old ones at some point, but not recently enough and not with enough attention that I remember anything in them. So actually the thing that I'm going to be doing over the next week is watching Mad Max, and watching those movies. Yeah.
That's fucking rad.
It's as homework goes, it's pretty fucking cool. But yeah, no. So basically I'm just going to try and watch some of this shit so that I can get a better idea of what I want to pull out of that and like how they name stuff. And yeah, because I keep coming up with stuff like, spec or something like that. And even that feels like too fantasy to me. That doesn't feel like something they would say in Mad Max. I don't know. So yeah, I have no fucking idea what we're going to rename Eva. Boomtown's cool.
Boomtown is pretty cool, right?
Boomtown's pretty dope, yeah.
What's your planet called? Shut up, nerd.
It's called Boomtown.
Boomtown. Y'all just landed on the wrong planet. What's it called? Pennsylvania.
What's it called? North Fulton County. That's your world? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when we went on the Appalachian Trail, we were hitchhiking in Pennsylvania, and the first thing I saw was some dude in his yard burning trash and poking it with a stick. And I was like, well.
that face when you're in Pennsylvania. Am I right, folks?
Anyways, it was fun to see you all. I love you. I'm your dad.
We're your dad. We're
your dad.
We're your dads now.
And we're proud of you, sons.
Don't ask about your old dads. We're proud of you.
We're proud of you. We're not proud of them.
Not them. This got more aggressive than we meant it to be. We're your dads. We love you. Goodbye.